if you've got a lot of money, you don't have any time. And if you've got a lot of time, you don't have any money. And I don't know how true that is, because if you've mastered both, you've got an abundance of each.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Ignite the King podcast. Welcome, Russell.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think I'm throwing you off there. I was going to say my name. You're about to say your name, and I will.
Ignite the King. King. We need like one of those monster truck rally intros.
Sunday.
Baptism and monster truck rally at the Jesus Dome. Now that you live in Texas, you know that's a real thing.
Like, I went to one last week.
Churches the size of shopping malls. It's a real thing, man.
Oh yeah, lots of space here. Lots of space for sure. I'm super excited for this episode. We're coming off the heels of a really powerful call with our brother last night. We're like, we got to talk about this to all you men out there. It's time, sex, money, power, health. These are all the core pillars of life force energy, which falls under the umbrella of the lover archetype that we've been diving into in both our brotherhood and on this podcast. And Russell, man, we hit on some of those hot button issues last night, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely say so. And common themes for pretty much every man.
Yeah. So again, time, sex, money, power, and our health. All these relate to our life force energy. I've always seen this as people get like richer or wealthier. What's the classic thing they say? Time's more important than money. Right. It's the one thing we can't get back. So hugely connected to our life force, especially in today's world where we are just inundated with phones, notifications, just so many things that are stealing our time, frankly. Right. I think you mentioned it on the call last night around squandering time. It's like, I don't have time for anything, yet I have time to scroll Instagram for an hour. Like, so, and the same could be said for money, right? Sometimes people handle money like a hot potato, where it's like they get it and then and then it's gone, right? Where it's like, and these are all things, again, sex, conversations and topics that, frankly, as men, I don't know about you out there, but these were not things that were directly talked to me about or taught to me. These are things I had to figure out, find out, and make a lot of mistakes with, frankly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just had me with what you said. You just had me pull up that Dalai Lama quote that I referenced last night on the call.
The Dalai Latte? Is that what you were calling it?
Yeah, that's right. So
that's not a swipe at the Dalai Lama. It's an inside joke, people. All right,
inside joke. You know. I originally, for some reason, attributed this quote to Benjamin Franklin. Then I realized, that was the Dalai Lama. I'm like, but they used to hang out a lot together, so it doesn't matter. Same thing. Like Ben Franklin and Dalai Lama would go get coffee, and I just started riffing on that, and they would go to that Tibetan coffee shop, the Dalai Latte. So,
which is really funny, by the way.
Thank you. Sometimes my brain just grabs the ball and runs with it. But the Dalai Lama, which is not a pachyderm, but a holy man, when asked what surprised him most about humanity, said, man, because he sacrifices his health in order to make money, then he sacrifices his money to recuperate his health. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he is never going to die, and then dies having never really lived. That's the synopsis of the challenge that modern man has with time, money, health, and we put sex and power in there as well. And we'll talk about each one of those, but I would say those three are probably the biggest out of the five for most men. And when you men listening, when you think about time, let's start there.
Yeah.
Let's start with time.
Which was probably one that was the biggest. I think that surprisingly showed up on our call when we asked men to grade or rate these and how like prevalent they were. Time was at the top, myself included. So go ahead.
Yeah, and they're inextricably linked. You know, it's often said that if you've got a lot of money, you don't have any time, and if you've got a lot of time, you don't have any money. And I don't know how true that is, because if you've mastered both, you've got an abundance of each.
Oh,
However, most of us are running around like Little White Rabbit in Alice in Wonderland. I'm late. And there's never seeming to be enough time. But I've heard how many millionaires and successful entrepreneurs going, listen, Jack, we got the same 24 hours in a day.
right.
I don't have any extra time that I bought, right? Besides with my habits. Right. It's what are you doing with it? And then the flip side of that is, are you squandering or wasting your time, spending time, wasting time? Think of time as currency. In fact, one of the men in our brotherhood last night said, my calendar is my calculator. And I went, wow, I like that.
Yeah, that was deep.
Yeah, my calendar is my calculator. I can tell you how much money is going into my bank account by how I am maximizing or wasting my time, by how I am scheduling my calendar. And if it's a hot mess, probably everything else in your life is too.
Yeah, I agree. And related to the quote that you said, I think a huge misconception for men out for people is, I got all the time in the world, and something I've looked at these last 4 years since this whole COVID BS is, seeing people die, not necessarily from COVID, but the things that followed it
with COVID.
Right. And just like, we just don't know. I mean, fuck, it could be done tomorrow. And
tomorrow is promised to no one.
Exactly. And, it sounds cliche, but it's just true. It's like, what are we doing with the time that we have? Right. And it's one of our most powerful assets. And a moment of presence is worth so much more than dicking around on Instagram for 3 hours. Right. So I think that's the paradigm shift as we dive into these that really needs to be at the forefront.
Yeah. And I would invite you men not to blame yourself for falling prey to the trap of Instagram, because it's designed to be addictive. Right. It gets to everybody. So it's not about blame and shame. It's about responsibility. We have to take responsibility for ourselves. And there's a lot of people I know that did a social media fast where it's like 30 days, I'm putting this shit down. I'm deleting the apps from my phone. Yep. And it's a really healthy practice.
Yeah.
When you talk about time and how tomorrow's not promised, I mean, reminded of when my father died and he passed from cancer, and I was talking to one of my friends afterwards, and I was so pissed off at the doctors because he'd followed the Western medicine paradigm, and I watched them. I remember getting him like super greens and what's called alternative health supplements, but they're actually real health supplements. Right. And his doctor told him not to take them because they might interfere with the chemo.
It's actually antithetical to their treatment.
Bitch.
Yeah. I was like, as you were saying that.
Oh, I was furious. Yeah. I was furious because I watched him wither away. So I was all pissed off about that when he died. And my friend, one of his moments of brilliance, reminded me to give thanks for the gift of cancer. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I want to hear this.
I just lost my dad. He goes, yeah. And you had all the time in the world to prepare for that. You got to say goodbye to him. You got to spend his last days with him. You got to say what really mattered. If he had had a heart attack or been hit in a car accident, he would have been gone just like that. And you'd have nothing. You'd have no closure whatsoever. Be grateful for the gift of cancer. And I was like, wow.
Wow.
Talk about a paradigm shift. And it shows clearly, yes, tomorrow's not promised to anyone, and maximize your time. And since we're in the season of the lover archetype, one of the ways we can maximize that time is by being present. When your woman walks out the door in the morning, do you know that she's coming back? Do you know for sure that she's not going to get hit by a car or a meteor or a terrorist attack or decide that she's going to leave? You have no idea.
Yeah.
So if you don't take that moment of presence to just put your forehead against hers, you don't even have to say anything. Just be present.
Yeah. We have a rule in my house. We never leave mad.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Like, no matter what's going on, one of us, if we're going out or whatever, never leave mad.
Right. Yeah. Never go to bed mad. Never leave mad. Exactly.
Yeah.
So presence, and even if it's your coworkers, not necessarily your spouse, right? Your friend, your brother, your sister, your whoever it is. This moment that you have with them may be the last moment that you have with them. So understand that time is a finite resource in this plane of existence.
Right. Maybe a topic for another podcast.
Yeah, right. So maximize it. And how do you maximize that time? Presence and intention.
Yeah.
Are you living on purpose?
Yeah, let's go over those, because we could talk about each thing, but it's like ultimately, as we talk about actionables, it's like intention, presence, and another through line that came through in this call with our men was around boundaries and being able to hold boundaries around our time, because everyone wants it, right? Whether it's your job, whether it's your family, whether it's your children, whether it's Instagram, right? Everyone wants your time. Right. And are you willing to say no? And this ties into the 5 pains we talk about, the pleaser, where we want to serve everyone. We want to help everyone. We have good intention, but everyone feels that and they want it from us, and we give it and then we feel depleted, right? I feel you want to rip on this.
Yeah, no, just like, yeah, I'm going to need you to go ahead and come in on the weekend too. Yeah, that'd be swell. That'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, there was a man.
Office Space, if nobody got the reference.
Oh, yeah. If you didn't, you don't listen to this podcast. Come on now. I know some of the movies we say are old, but you got to know that one. But it was interesting, a quick story from one of the men last night. He talked about holding a boundary, and he works on cars, and he was doing I think a mobile job someone's home, not at his shop, and it was he had to leave that job as soon as they wanted him to do more work, and he said, I need to go because I have to make this call, which was the call we were having, and he said no, and that's more money, more work, right? And he's like, no, I have to go. Thank you very much. And left. And then winds up getting a call back from the man that says, I want you to come back. And my neighbor has a job for you as well. So ultimately, he held his boundary and is going to make more money as a result. So it creates this attraction. He used the same example of being in a monogamous relationship and going to yoga class, and women that were attracted to him and wanting energy from him, and him saying, look, I'm in a relationship. We can be friends, but I want you to know, I'm taken. And he's like, now they want me more.
Aphrodisiac.
Right.
Yeah, that's the greatest aphrodisiac to a woman is when you're not available. You say you're taken, they try harder. But he set that boundary. And that's where it's about your intention, not theirs.
Right. Right. So boundary is huge through line in all of these boundaries around our money, boundaries around our power, boundaries around our health, right? Health is, as you said, it's the thing that we give away. And I know we name it last on the list, but our health is our most valuable asset. If we're not healthy, we're of value to no one, right?
Yeah.
So
I put it first on my list.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe you can speak to that one, because we know it's a super high value for you as me as well. But it's something to share there.
What? Yeah, I don't care how much money you have in the bank. And I've made this point a couple times with a couple of social media posts too. So I want to make it clear. I'm not against money. I'm a big fan. I love money.
Big fan.
I want more of it. It's good. But it can't be valued over everything else in your life.
At the expense of.
Right. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. If you're sick and disabled, and that could just be through obesity, could be that you get winded walking up a flight of stairs, right? If you're sick, disabled, diseased, and you can't participate in everything life has to offer, you're broke. No matter what your bank account says, you're broke. Because your life is limited at best, subpar. And you could try to find power through, which is one of the other pillars that we're talking about, through your money, but it's like health is your first wealth.
Yeah.
Right? Maximize that.
It's funny, when I was in practice in my chiropractic offices, I found that, and this wasn't like linear across the board, but often the people that were the richest had the worst spines. They were the most messed up. Right. And because they pushed hard and they sacrificed to achieve that that wealth, but yet they were poor in their health. I always saw the spine as sort of the great neutralizer, where, I would see people face down and feel their spine. It didn't matter who they were. It didn't matter what they did for a living, their background, their culture, their religion, anything. And I could feel their spine and be like, this person is healthy or this person is unhealthy. Right. And their congruence with all these other aspects of life force, time, money, power, sex, absolutely translated to their expression or lack thereof of health. Right. And, especially nowadays where we have so many options for our health, right? And so many ways to take care of ourselves that there's no excuse anymore for allowing that to deteriorate. It's actually, it's a duty because of the onslaught of toxins and stressors that we're constantly having to battle. I feel you ready to go on something here.
No. Just sharing another quote from Socrates, another one of the performers at the
Was he
Dalai
the barista
Cafe.
that Dalai Latte?
I had somebody tell me once that they loved the Greek philosopher Socrates. I'm like, oh wow,
wasn't that from Bill and Ted's Socrates?
It could be. I don't know.
I think Billy the Kid called him Socrates. Now we're going deep on the 80s movies here.
Socrates said, "No man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable." Love that. Right? So, and by the way, men, it's a big bunch of marketing bullshit that women like dad bods. Dad bod is a lie. It's an excuse for you being fat and flabby and out of shape. Nobody loves it. You don't love it. They don't love it.
Yeah.
Quit lying to yourself. That's the society trying to tell you it's okay to be sick and fat and out of shape and weak because that's the way they want you. It's a lie. Dad bod is an excuse. Especially if you're a dad, you have a responsibility to be physically virile, to be strong, to be athletic, to be a fucking warrior, to teach your child what that means. You are modeling for your child. So if your child is sitting around eating waffles and frosted sugar bombs for breakfast every day, and they're eating processed food for lunch and dinner, it's your fault. When your child is diseased and obese and looking at early onset childhood obesity and diabetes, that was not a thing.
No, it wasn't.
That was not a thing.
No.
You're responsible.
I think 2 out of every 3 kids has some kind of chronic illness now.
Infuriates me.
Yeah. With the advances of technology and medicine and all the things we know, I think we rate, and this was years ago, 27th out of the all nations in health expression.
Well,
it's
that's because we have a pharmaceutical industry and processed food industry that profits off of us being sick.
Yep, we're one of the only countries where you could actually have pharmaceuticals advertised on television. Frankly, I believe we make up 10% of the world's population. We consume 75% of the world's drugs. So do the math. And not the good drugs.
That's another podcast.
Right.
Fathers, pull your heads out of your asses.
Yeah.
Be the example for your child. Be the example of health. Be the example of strength. Be the example of masculinity, awakened masculinity. And awakened masculinity has purpose behind strength.
I think the bottom line is we want to feel good.
I'll stop.
Yeah, no, hey, let's get fired up. This is what it's about, because these are the hot button issues, right? Sex, right? We give away our power to sex all the time, right? What is it to actually contain that within yourself and the amount of power that actually has? And we just give it away. Whether we give it away to a woman or in our hand or whatever, we're just giving it away all the time, and it's keeping us docile. Right. So we can look at that in every one of these categories because they do relate to our life force. But ultimately, it's like we want to feel good. We want to feel alive, virile, as you said. It's like these are the areas that must be paid attention to: our health, our physicality, our mental health, our emotional health. All of these are absolutely vital to that.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. We again. I'm gonna keep my IgKnight ball cap on and not switch it out for my tinfoil hat. But talk about the powers that be that want us sick, distracted, disconnected, and everything else. So yeah, sex is everywhere in our culture, and it is designed to distract us. It is designed to hypnotize us. Men are visual creatures, so there's hot chicks on Instagram. There's billboards. It's everywhere, and it's leaky energy. It's leaking your energy.
Yeah.
Right. And Napoleon Hill in The Science of Getting Rich talked about transmutation of sexual energy. That most millionaires rather don't become millionaires until they're in their 50s, because before that they're thinking with the wrong head, because all their energy is going towards sex. And once they kind of change gears as they get older, their focus becomes towards creating wealth. And by the way, there's a difference between money and wealth.
Right. Just as there's a difference between sex and intimacy. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Wealth to me includes health, includes time, includes all of these pillars. That's real wealth.
Absolutely.
So are you sacrificing your relationships for money? Are you sacrificing your health for money? Are you sacrificing your time where you never have enough time that's quality time, where you're present with your family or even with your fucking self? Like, can you be present in any moment? Here's a test. Put your phone down, walk across the room, and see how long you go before the urge to pick it up kicks in.
Ouch.
See how long. Because I promise it's become such an ingrained habit. It's become such an addiction that you'll have a thought and you want to reach for your phone. You'll have a question, you want to reach for your phone to get the answer. You'll think, I promise you, not more than 5 minutes. If you make it 5 minutes, you're a titan. Most people within 30 to 60 seconds, they're going to have that urge to reach for the phone.
Yep. We have
that's called an addiction, man.
Yeah. We have a rule in my house, after we're done for the day and it's family time, we put the phones down. They go away. And I'm not saying I don't sneak over once in a while, but for the most part, It goes away. And this, like, if you need to get a hold of me, that might be a challenge at that time, because that's family time, and I hold that boundary. So I think to start tying this together for men out there, and you used the word leaky before. It's like, where's your energy leaky around these topics? Where's your energy leaky around sex? Men are constantly leaking their sexual energy onto women. Men are constantly leaking their time energy through lack of boundaries and through pleasing or pleaser activities around money, right? There's so much vanity around money and leaking that energy on people, or judging other people, or just counting the dollars and the numbers. Like, so where, and power is another big one of like the use or misuse of your power, and how you power play with people, or play victim or the perpetrator, and that whole villain, victim, perpetrator triangle that people can get caught in and love and get something out of that. But it's like, where in all of those categories, time, money, sex, power, health, where is your energy leaky? Where do you need to tighten it up? I mean, if we're truly here through the Ignite the King work to embody that awakened masculine energy, we got to start at the floor of our life force and really have some awareness and acknowledgement of where are you leaking your energy? And probably a little bit in all those, but like, what's the top one, right?
Yeah. And one of the things we did on our call last night is score yourself on a 1 through 10.
Right.
1 being horrible, 10 being excellent. Where is your relationship with each one of those? With your health, with your time, with your money, with your sexuality or sexual energy, with your power, and one of the distinctions we made around power is power over versus power through. Right. Are you trying to exert your power over people like a tyrant? like a dictator, or are you seeking power through harmony, through communication, through collaboration? There's a difference, right?
Yeah. And I know,
Gandhi had lots of power, but he wasn't a tyrant,
yeah,
right? So there's different expressions of power. One is a sacred, or at least a harmonious and for the greater good of all expression of power. The other is for the greater good of just you.
right.
Check yourself.
Absolutely. And, just speaking personally, I know when I'm stressed, I don't have enough time, not enough money, not enough this, not enough that, is when the desire, or just the unconscious desire to exert power, because I want to feel powerful, because I'm not feeling powerful in certain areas. Well, I need to tip the scales in other areas to compensate. And life becomes this one big compensatory battle in my head. Not even in my head, but in my body, right? Where it's like, well, I'm not doing good over here, so let's just try to make it good over here, instead of having congruence, embodiment all the way throughout. We're not saying it's easy, right? It does. I mean, this is the work. It's called work for a reason, because it takes energy, it takes focus, it takes discipline. And that was another through line on the call last night, where it was boundaries and then discipline. Right. And I love the root word of discipline is disciple, right? Coming from God, right? It's holy to me to have discipline in my life around things. And when my energy gets leaky, it doesn't feel good. Honestly, it just does not feel good.
And that's when discipline can falter. Maybe you're exhausted because you've mismanaged your time, and sure is an easy time when you're tired and cranky, like you're talking about. That's when you want to reach for that donut. That's when you want to reach for that food that's not on your diet. That's when that sexual indulgence or dalliance becomes more tempting, when we're depleted in those other areas. So that's when you have to be a disciple of your highest self, if your highest good, if nothing else. Right? You have to be a disciple to the goal that you said you were going to accomplish. Right?
Absolutely. You said this word earlier, and we're giving the through line. So again, boundaries, and discipline and presence, I say, would be the last one to really embody here, right? I think we just had it on a call with a man today, where it's a minute of presence is worth way more than an hour on Instagram.
Yeah.
So, and social media is one of the biggest vices of the addicted lover, because it's literally in our pocket. It's so accessible, where, oh, I have a minute, let me just check on something. And you go down some rabbit hole, and then it's like you lift your head up and it's been 40 minutes. Right. It's one of the biggest robbers of time.
And for the record, don't carry your phone in your pocket. You're microwaving your boys. Like, it's been, studies have shown you can reduce your testosterone by as much as 30% by keeping your phone in your hip pocket right next to your balls. Yeah. Don't do that.
And the chiropractor in me wants to say, get that wallet out of your back pocket, please. You don't need a wedge under your ass.
Yeah.
But, I wonder why my back hurts. I got this.
Maybe because I'm sitting sideways.
Yeah, right.
So, in the realm of presence, right? Somebody was talking about. He's actually one of the guys on the call last night. It's like, I want to sit there on Instagram for half an hour. So instead, I meditate for half an hour. I'm like, well, you still gave up half an hour of time. It's certainly a much better way. But if he was feeling like he didn't have enough time in the first place, or he needed to focus on work, I believe it was his specific thing that he wasn't doing what he needed to do at work. I don't know that meditating in half an hour is helping you do what you need to do at work more so. But this is the beauty. You guys, if you've ever heard of the box breath or the warrior breath, it's a deep breath in, 4 to 6 count, hold for 4 to 6 count, exhale, and then hold with no air in your lungs for a 4 to 6 count. You can repeat that 3 times. It has been said that even one conscious breath, even one mindful breath, can put you in a state of meditation. So if you're feeling spun out like the little white rabbit, or depleted, and you don't know which way is up, and you feel like, I don't have enough time, stop. Take a breath.
Pattern interrupt.
Hold. Presence. Exhale. Release. Hold. Faith. Breathe. Just that.
Mm-hmm.
Just that can bring you into a state of presence.
It's what we do every week on our call, right? We do a box breath together. We call in the sacred directions. All that takes maybe 3 minutes, really. And it's completely changes your state, completely changes your physiology. Because here's the thing, we're not meant to run a stress physiology all the time. Humans were not designed that way. We were meant to be in a more relaxed, well state with spikes of stress. Ancestrally, when the saber-toothed tiger was running after us and we had to run away, and then we were safe, and then we shook it off like a dog shakes off fleas. But yet we live in a culture where we are constantly bombarded with stress, whether that's chemical stress, physical stress, electronic stress, right? Mental stress or emotional stress, and we can't turn it off. I think one of the men at one point talked about low-grade anger, and you're like, there's no such thing as low-grade anger, right? It's like you're either angry or you're not, right? So, and what that does to our physiology, what that does to our body, what that does to our perception of time, of money. We've had men that make tons of money, and they're like, I don't even feel it anymore. Doesn't even do anything anymore. So it's not the thing, right? It's what state we're in and how we are disciplined and have boundaries, right? And how present we can be with whatever it is that's going on. So I love the box breath and that simple tool because, we don't all have time to meditate for a half an hour. But there is the story, like guy goes and sees a healer and says, you need to meditate for an hour a day. He's like, I don't have time to meditate for an hour. He's like, okay, then meditate for 2. Right?
That was a Zen master or something like that. Yeah.
Right. But the reality is and for a lot of men out there, we were just talking to a man on a call today where that transition from work to home, right? Where it's like, how does he not carry into his relationship everything that he's thinking about around his work? And I gave him a simple hand mudra to do just to like bring himself into presence, to have a clear distinction or boundary between this is work and this is home. Right. So maybe you can offer some other things that men can do in this whole realm of life force. You just did with the box breath, but we're kind of at the point in the call or the podcast for actionables, things that men can just onboard very simply. So we have the box breath, the warrior breath. That's super simple. Some kind of mudra or way that you acknowledge with yourself you're transitioning from this role to this role. Curious, any other things that pop for you on this?
Well, the old Zen koan of what is the sound of one hand clapping? You take your right hand and you slap yourself across the face and you'll get real present. It'll bring you present immediately.
I'm laughing because I've done that. So
it's better than slapping somebody else across the face. But it's fun when you ask them what is the sound of one hand clapping. There's the box breath. The other thing is, man, take the inventory. Scale of 1 to 10. How are you in each of those categories? Time, money, sex, health, power. How do you feel in each one of those? And feel. I use the word feel.
Careful, you're going into some. Careful.
I know.
Might trigger some people with that word.
May get them out of their heads. Yeah, right. Feel. We had a guy earlier, asked him, how does he feel? And he said, let me think. I'm like, no.
I'm trying real hard to think about this one.
Don't think. Feel.
So much conditioning to undo.
Right?
So much conditioning. Wow.
How do you feel when you think about time? I just did it myself. How do you feel when you think about it, right? But consider each one of those categories and rate yourself. Give yourself a score 1 through 10. What needs to be fixed? Right? Look at your schedule. Look at your calendar. If it's wide open and there's no structure whatsoever, probably not working well for you. Right. If your schedule is so full that you have to write in bathroom breaks in between your meetings in your calendar, that's also not working for you.
Right.
And I know corporate executives that have been that busy, they had to write bathroom breaks into their schedule so that their team didn't fill that space with something else between
And they still
meetings.
don't do it.
Yeah, bladder infection. So, yeah, like figure that out. And again, your health, I don't give a shit what your story is around this. You have no excuse not to take control of your health. Even if all you could do is a walk around the block after every meal, start there.
Yep.
Jumping jacks, body weight squats, push-ups, mountain climbers. You could do all of those in an elevator. You don't need a gym.
Right.
You don't need any equipment. You need your body. That's it. Do something. Movement is life. Reclaim your health. Reclaim your power by reclaiming your health and by reclaiming your time, by setting your boundaries, by living with discipline. Live as a disciple to your highest good.
All these things are related. I mean, again,
100%.
It's like a Tensegrity model where it's like you pull on one of the strings and it affects all of them, right?
Tensegrity.
Yeah,
Wow.
big word for the day.
That's the big word for the day. If you ask me to spell it, we're in trouble. But
I mean, Tensegrity, and this is a deeper topic I'm not going to get into, but everything affects everything else, right? The tension. So, like our body system is a Tensegrity system. You pull on one thing, every other tissue has to respond in kind, otherwise it wouldn't work. Right. So all of these time, sex, money, power, health, it's a Tensegrity model where you pull on one of the, you pull on your health, it's going to pull on your time, your wealth, your power, your sex, right? You're going to feel more confident. You're going to make more money. You're going to have more fun. You're going to feel like time is on your side. Right. So again, rate these things because some might feel like you said a 10, some might be a 1. And how do we raise up those ones? Where does the focus need to be? Because it's going to impact all the others. And unfortunately, sometimes we either ignore all of them or we just focus on the one we're really good at, right? I'm good at making money, so I'll just keep doing that because that'll take care of everything else. And it's like, well, to a point, right? So I would say rating. So just to wrap up here, rating all of these 1 to 10: time, sex, money, power, health, right? A simple warrior box breath to bring yourself back into presence, right? Some kind of transitionary movement, or I call it a mudra, a hand motion, something that brings you into presence to be able to transition from one role that you play into another, right? I think that kind of covers it. I think that's a lot.
Yeah. That's good. And just be aware, guys, constant vigilance, and awareness of
what's the Huxley quote we say? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No,
the price of freedom is eternal vigilance.
Eternal vigilance. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just when you think about a constitutional republic or a nation, right? The price of freedom in your life is eternal vigilance. Right? It's we have to be vigilant to what's really going on. How are we really showing up? How are we feeling? How are we operating? Are we letting our standards and boundaries start to disintegrate?
Yep.
You have to be aware of that. You have to be vigilant to that. Hold yourself to a higher standard.
Beautifully said. I think that does it for today. Men, plenty here to sink your teeth into, and I'm sure we're going to be hitting on these topics moving forward. So have a beautiful rest of the day. Enjoy this episode.
Talk to you on the next one.
Aho.